Hi, my name is Samantha Johnston, and I'm going to discuss briefly about our conflict scenario and the roles that we're going to all play and what the problems are. So, first of all, I'm going to be the mediator. April Millis is going to be the management at the Child and Family Services Organization. And Stephanie Thompson and Jessica White are going to be the social workers that work under April at the Child and Family Services Organization. So, what's going on is Stephanie and Jessica are caseworkers at a nonprofit agency where they work with children and their families. And they've been struggling to manage all the caseloads that they have. And they're feeling like the management is not really listening to them and taking them seriously. They express how they've been trying to talk with management, which is April, one of the managers, and nothing is being done in order to remedy what their issues are. So I'm going to be coming in as a mediator to try to help them and guide them to some kind of resolution. The intervention methods that we are going to use, first of all, is the common ground process and then the collaborative model. So we're going to use the common ground process basically because we need them to communicate better, obviously. And for this, they can both be able to hear both sides and hopefully come to some kind of common ground where they both can realize they both want the same thing. They want to have a happy, collaborative, and enjoyable experience where they can also be better social workers and serve their clients. And then the collaborative model, once they come to some common ground and figure out and identify the problems that they have, they are going to work together to possibly find some goals and action steps that they can take to further their identifying and finding some resolution. All right, so we're going to start the thing. All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to start off by thanking everyone here for taking the time out of your hectic schedules to be here today and for being willing to share and open up to one another. So we've gathered here to try to resolve some longstanding issues that y'all are having in the workplace. It's causing a whole lot of tension. What I'd like us to do is start by having a conversation where each person is going to be allowed to speak and everyone is going to paraphrase back. So I'm going to facilitate the conversation in a way that everyone is heard completely. So you'll give your viewpoint on the situation and how you're feeling about the situation. First, there's some ground rules that we need to discuss for our conversation today, so everyone can be heard and respected. Everything we discuss here stays here. So let's practice confidentiality and no interrupting one another, okay? Let the other person finish what they're trying to say and what they're trying to convey to you. And use respectful language. So it's not name call. And this is not a debate. What makes this conversation different today is that you're going to be listening and then simply paraphrase back what you hear the other person is saying. So what I'd like to start, first of all, is the social workers go first and state how you feel and your vantage point on the conflict. And then April, I'd like for you to paraphrase back to each of the coworkers what you heard them say and how you think they felt. After which, you will be given full opportunity to be heard. And Stephanie and Jessica will paraphrase back to you what they heard you say. Please, everyone, feel free to clarify or reframe what you heard. But remember, this is not a debate, okay? We are here this morning to simply listen in order to paraphrase. So Stephanie, how about you go first?
Okay. So for the last few months, other caseworkers and I have been overwhelmed with a lot of cases that we had to take on in the organization. The caseloads have gotten to the point where it's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. And then we have to service a lot of families and children. And also at this organization, for some of the families and the children, this can be like their last stop to try to help to better their life. So for us to give them effective services and attention and the time that they need, we have to try to minimize, our caseload in some way to better serve them. So I think the main thing is trying to help them and support them, but at the same time still doing our duty, which is the paperwork and the things that we need to turn in to, be effective also in our organization. So just things that, I think can help us could be, just support from management on trying to get more workers so some of the caseworkers can minimize their caseloads.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for sharing that with us. Now, April, what did you hear Stephanie say?
So if I heard what you were saying correctly, Stephanie, you're saying that because of the lack of staffing that we have at the organization, that you and the other social workers are not able to provide the services that our clients need, and that they deserve at our organization because a lot of your clients and our clients, this is their last ditch effort. And so you want to make sure that you can give them the due time and attention that they need. But because of the caseloads, it seems like that seems to be falling through the cracks. And it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because you can't give the clients the services that you want to just because of the lack of staffing and overworking in that situation. Did I hear, is that correct summary?
Yes, April, that is correct.
Okay, good. Excellent job, you two. Now, Jessica, please let us know how you view the situation and your feelings on the issue.
Okay. Well, when I first started out being a social worker, I wanted to work here because it's a nonprofit organization. And I thought it was a perfect way to help people through what they're going through, especially families and children. And whenever I spend time with my clients, sometimes I don't feel like I have enough time because there's so many that I have to get through. And I feel like I'm turning them away because of that. And you can see the hurt in their face because they want to say more, they want the help, but I don't always have the time because there's so many. So.
Thank you, Jessica. I can see this is really bothering you. All right, April, can you tell Jessica what you heard her say?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I heard what you were saying correctly, Jessica, is that the reason that you wanted to join our organization is because you really enjoy helping people, those especially in need, and that it seems like you have like an emotional connection to a lot of the clients, and you want to be able to spend due time with them, but because of the caseload, you're having to turn them away, which is not only hurtful to you, but it's also hurtful to the clients. And so that's contradicting your reason for being a social worker and working in this company, because you want to be able to give help where it's needed. But right now, as it stands, because you have so many cases to take care of, that you can't give them the individual time that they need to help them with their situation. Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jessica and April. You guys did an excellent job. Now, April, it is your turn to tell Stephanie and Jessica your perspective on the issue. And Stephanie and Jessica will summarize what they heard you say. Does that sound good, everyone?
Yes.
Yep. Sounds good. So because we work in a nonprofit organization, it can be really difficult to delegate all of the different arenas and responsibilities that the funding that we get comes from, because we do get primarily from donations. So we really, as an organization, want to provide access to anybody and everybody that we can, because that's why we're a nonprofit. We really are here for the clients, and that's why I chose to work in this organization, because I have experience working in the lower income, like socioeconomic communities, and so I really wanted to help facilitate the the services that they really need. So because we are really strapped for funding, I am in a bit of a difficult position because I end up having to let people go that I don't want to let go because I just don't have the funding for them. Because at the end of the day, there's the bottom dollar. If I can't pay somebody, I'm not going to keep them around, even if they're a great social worker. I just don't have the capacity to do that. So it's hard because I really want to help people, but being on this end, and I know that we don't have enough resources, and I see how many people come into our organization that really need our help, and we, as the organization, we give everybody a chance who needs it, and we help every single person that walks through our door. So, you know, I understand that they're desperate and this is their last chance for help. So I have tried to talk to the board of directors in the organization to get more staffing on, just because I know how it's affecting the clients. However, they a lot of times turn me down and say there's just not enough money, there's just not enough money, there's not enough money. So after a while from keep trying to ask for more, you know, help and getting no, it tends to get a little discouraged. And so I'm always trying to think of new ways in which I can make your guys' job easier and get the clients more help. But it's a little bit of a difficult time and positioning for me because I see both ends, where I see the clients need help, but I also see that we don't have enough funding to necessarily have all the staffing that we need. And also there are, because I am in a management position, I have a lot of responsibilities, and on the day-to-day priority list, there are sometimes things that just happen to be more important than others. And so I kind of have to deal with the, you know, immediate attention, like priorities that I have, just because there's so many, and sometimes things take more of my attention than others. So even though it's something that has taken me a while, it's just because there's so many responsibilities that I have to oversee, and sometimes they outweigh other ones, and it can be a really difficult balancing act, because I do see how much help everybody needs, but I can only do so much with the money and the resources that I'm given.
Thank you for sharing with us, April.
No problem.
Now, Stephanie, what did you hear April say just now?
Okay, April, if I heard you correctly, you mentioned that management has a lot of issues that they have to deal with, and sometimes certain issues can tend to not get attention because you have immediate important issues that need to be handled. And then also you mentioned about the funding and the resources, that sometimes it could be a struggle to get us more workers to help us with our caseloads, because there's always not the funding and the resources there to help to get more workers for us. Is that what you said, April?
Yeah, that is exactly what I said. Thank you,
Okay.
Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, Jessica, would you mind paraphrasing back to April what you heard from her?
Okay. So, April, what I heard you say was that you have a lot of experience working in low-income neighborhoods that are desperate in need of our services, and you care about all of our clients who walk through our door, and you're here because our organization doesn't turn anyone away. And because we're a nonprofit, you struggle to find the funding to get more staff that we need. Is that right, April?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jessica. Thank you.
You are.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to each other and sharing your insights, your feelings, and your knowledge on the issues that we have at hand right now. Now that we were able to take the argument out of this conversation and pay closer attention to the points that each of you were making, we can begin to see some common ground. It sounds like you all are very passionate about your jobs and you want to serve your clients more efficiently. What I would like us to do next is to work towards discovering some ways we can alleviate the issues you identified as causing the most stress in your workplace. In order for us to accomplish this, I want to break down the complex problem that we have in front of us. So there is an insufficient staffing and a lack of communication between the staff and management. And this has been going on for quite some time. Is that something you can all agree on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that you all agree on that. That there's a lack of communication. And I want you all to brainstorm different ideas. And no idea is too crazy or too, out there. And we're going to plan action steps we can take in order to ensure that there will be more consistent communication between the staff and management in the future. April, do you have any ideas?
Well, I think off the top of my head, if there was an ability for, or an opportunity, I should say, for the staff and the management to talk more openly and more regularly to kind of facilitate more conversation so it's not as detached, if we did something like that.
Great, great. What do you think of that, Stephanie and Jessica?
I think that's a great idea, a great start to us trying to figure out, to get communication better. I think the only issue might be that we all have different schedules. So we would have to figure out a time that everyone can meet to try to resolve our issue.
And then maybe if April could be the one to set the time and the place for us to meet, then we could schedule our clients and work around them.
Those both sound like great ideas. What do you think of that, April?
I completely agree. I think that is something I would be able to do. So I think to make it the easiest for all of us, if we set a meeting time of Monday mornings at 9 a.m. in the conference room, any of the staff members who want to discuss with management any problems that they're having are welcome to come and talk about it. And then I can see more what's going on the day-to-day basis of what the clients are going through and what the staff needs, so I can better serve your needs. Would that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, that will work.
That sounds great. I'm glad to see that you all have come to an agreement for this goal. So from now on, once a week on Monday mornings at 9 a.m., any of the staff who are able and wanting to discuss any problems with the management can meet with them in the conference room. Now, the other problem we identified is the lack of staffing to handle the clients that come into the organization, especially because there's a policy where the organization doesn't employ anyone with help. Now, April, you expressed the fact that because the organization is nonprofit, that the funding to hire more help is a problem for you to find as well. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that is correct.
So what ideas do you all have in mind to decide on as a goal to work on for solving this problem, since one relates to the other?
Well, an idea could be hiring a minimum of 2 staff members, and one could take care of the people who are walking in, and then the other one could deal with all the paperwork, because they're not social workers, but they're more of caseworkers, so they wouldn't be paid like social workers. So maybe that could help the financial issues.
And Stephanie, how do you feel about that?
Could you just repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
What Jessica just stated about getting 2 more workers.
Yes, I think that would definitely help us to alleviate some of our caseloads to better serve our clients. So I think that would be a great idea and a great start for us to definitely support our clients better.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Jessica, and for the input. Do you think that that is something you'd be able to try and to manage, April?
Well, if the 2 other staff members that I would be bringing on wouldn't be actual social workers and would be handling things of less responsibility and sensitivity, then I might be able to find some room in the budget to make that work, especially because then if I had those people just handling the walk-in clients and the paperwork, it would give you and the other social workers more time to spend with your clients. So I think that's something that I could really easily try to pose to the board of directors and see if I can get the ball rolling on that.
Okay. So that sounds like a great compromise then. Um, do you think that that's a goal that we can work towards?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think that's a goal I can work towards. I can't make any guarantees, unfortunately, because those decisions are out of my hand, but I can definitely do my best to give a dedicated presentation to the board of directors so that way you guys could have some help with the walk-in clients and the paperwork. If that would work for you, Stephanie and Jessica?
Yeah.
Yes, that will work.
Wonderful. So now we've all agreed on two major goals for each side to work on towards coming to a solution for this conflict. The first, once a week on Mondays at 9 a.m., the staff will meet with the management in the conference room to discuss any problems, issues that they're facing and that they want to talk about. Secondly, April will try to get two more staff members hired on to handle the less pressing and sensitive work that the caseworkers must deal with involving the clients and handling the daily walk-in clients as well as the excessive paperwork and that y'all have to do all the time. Do these both sound like goals you can all agree to?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, fantastic. So you all have made wonderful headway on this issue, and I'm very glad to see how well you have all worked together. In order to make sure that these goals continue to get the needed action they deserve, we're going to all meet up again in a month, discuss how these goals have gone, and you will find that maintaining goals in the midst of other priorities in life, it can be pretty challenging, but it is very doable. Let's make a written agreement with all our goals and action steps for us to visualize the work that we've done today and for moving forward. And we will assess our progress towards our goals in about a month. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yes.
That sounds good to us. So we will meet again here at the same time and place a month from now.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Look forward to
Awesome.
our meeting.
Me too. All right. So then that concludes the role play portion of the presentation. So now we're going to break down into the discussion questions that were posed for after our role play. So I am going to address the first point of issues relating to diversity and oppression. So I think because the organization that we all worked for is in a lower income area, it's really important that we are sensitive to the needs of the clients coming in. And I think that was something that all of both the caseworkers and the manager were focused on, because they do face a different level of oppression being lower income community. And I think having the diversity on the staff of having different kinds of social workers with different kinds of experience would be something that needs to also probably be looked at and addressed, and hopefully would be discussed about in those future meetings. And I think that it's something that no matter what type of social work environment, there's always going to be issues of diversity and oppression. So I think just being aware of them and in tune to be prepared to deal with them when those issues arise is really important. And, you know, in this situation specifically, I definitely think that that's something that everybody was aware of and willing to discuss, so that way all of the clients could get the needed help. So that's that.
Okay. The question that I had to answer was what techniques were used in our role play. So our first technique was common ground. So we had a mediator or a facilitator in our meeting, and one person talks at a time, and everyone had to rephrase what someone said. So it was more of just rephrasing and not a debate. And then we came to a common ground on our goal on what we wanted to accomplish together. And then we used a collaborative model to come together, for example, to come up with our meeting and to also come up with a written agreement about what we are going to accomplish. And then management was able to come up with ideas, and also the social worker. So that was what the collaborative model was about.
I'm going to discuss how the techniques were actually used in the role play. So common ground processing, that intervention, the biggest part of that is setting the ground rules, which the mediator did in the very beginning of the meeting, and gave a brief explanation that set the tone for the entire process. So, which was confidentiality, respectful language, no interrupting, and it's not a debate. So with those rules set and the mediator letting them know what her role is, was to redirect the conversation if those rules started to slip. That is the main point of the entire intervention, is to make sure those rules are being followed. So when paraphrasing back, each member paraphrased and they were allowed to listen, and the arguing and debating part was completely taken out of the equation. So that's what makes it so different than just any other conversation within a group. And then the confidentiality, each person was given time to speak on their view and without having to worry about what's going to happen after they leave the room, and that they could actually discuss what they were feeling honestly. And we're about to lose. Sorry about that. And so they felt safe and secure, and they could trust in the process. And then they were able to be seen and heard when they were able to voice their opinions, and the other person listened to them without being interrupted. For the contracting skills and the collaborative model intervention, you had the partializing. So the mediator began by breaking down the major problems that they had into the issues of communication and staffing. So she took a big, issue and said, okay, what are the small parts that we can work on together and agree on? And then identifying options. So the mediator asked the group to work together and brainstorming different ideas for one issue at a time. That way it didn't seem like there was a whole lot at once that they were all trying to figure out. And usually it's best to begin with the problem that they came in there for in the beginning, the major issue, which was communication between the two. They weren't feeling heard. They were trying to tell the problem, but there was no communication in order to even start to resolve that problem. So then sharing data. In this situation, there's a lot of times where in some situations the mediator or facilitator can share personal data and disclose information that's directly related to what the issue is and what's going on. In this situation, there really wasn't a need for that type of data sharing. However, the mediator did bring up the issue of, well, it's challenging, it's going to be difficult. So she was sharing that kind of information, saying the reality of it is it's going to be hard to implement the goals once we set these goals down, because that's the big change process. That's where change comes about, is actually implementing those goals in real life. So that's why they were going to meet again. And then seeking consensus was the final skill for the collaborative model. The mediator verbalized the goals to everyone at the very end, and she did it through steps, actually. Every time someone mentioned something and they agreed on it, she verbalized again what the goal was. And then she presented a written agreement saying, let's write down what we just discussed. Everyone can have a copy or whatnot, and they can visualize what the work they did was and move forward in the future.
Okay. And the question that I had was what stage the group was at the end and how we know it. So at the end, the group was in the performing stage because everybody was talking about how better, like what to do after like a month later when we meet up again. And so everyone was on the same page with hiring 2 more staff members to make sure that the financial aspect was being dealt with. That way, the time management wasn't such a problem. And then they were going to see how it was going to work out about a month or so later. So, and everyone was respectful. So there was really no conflicts with that.
Alrighty, well, sounds good. And thank you guys all for performing with us today. And I think that's it.